Good afternoon, everybody. Shavua Tov. Welcome to the Israel Brief and welcome to a new week of big headlines from Israel and the region, which we will bring you here every Monday to Thursday. I'm Rolene Marks, and if you are viewing this on Facebook, we would really love it if you share as wide as possible. We are currently, along with many other organizations and different groups, being censored, so every share really helps. And if you're viewing this on YouTube at the Israel Brief, we would love it if you simply subscribe. So let's get on with it. We have quite a lot of news to cover, starting with a big story that broke on Friday, just as the Shabbat, as the Sabbath came in. The International Criminal Court at The Hague, or the ICC, have announced that they will be pushing forward on investigations into Hamas and Israel for alleged war crimes. Now, if they push forward with these investigations, this will allow international bodies to charge Israeli military personnel with committing war crimes and could lead to their arrest if they travel to places around the world. Israel's Foreign Minister Gabi Ashkenazi and the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu have condemned this decision, calling it not only anti-Semitic, but that the ICC has no jurisdiction in this region. Israel is not a signatory to the Rome Statutes, which would allow for the ICC to have jurisdiction, and neither are the territories of Gaza, the West Bank, or East Jerusalem any kind of formal state. The ICC is claiming their own jurisdiction over these areas, but they are also not signatories to the Rome Statute. Other countries have come out in support of Israel, including Australia, who released a harsh statement yesterday condemning this institutionalized and focused condemnation of Israel. And the US State Department also released their statement saying that they're concerned that the ICC does not have jurisdiction over Israel and should not be pushing forward with their intentions. Now, a number of NGOs in Israel have pushed forward their defense of Israel against the ICC, also making the claim that the ICC has no jurisdiction here. And it also begs the question, with great human rights abuses being committed against the Uyghur people in Xinjiang in China and just on our border here in Syria and in Iran as well, why isn't the ICC focusing their attention there? Why are they focusing their attention specifically in an area where they have no claim, where they have no jurisdiction? The Sky News Australia yesterday claimed that it's just more than a coincidence that those who form the bulk of the jurists on the ICC happen to be part of political blocs that are famously against Israel. And there has been concern that the ICC may become like many UN agencies that have an institutionalized bias against the state of Israel. Israel's Defense Minister Benny Gantz has assured IDF personnel that the Defense Ministry and the IDF will do everything in its power to protect all our soldiers against these claims. This is a big story, and it is one that we're going to follow in a lot of detail and in a lot of depth, so watch this space. In other news, yesterday morning at 7 a.m., Israel started to slowly come out of lockdown. Last week, we reported that Israel was supposed to end the lockdown on Friday morning. However, after debates in the Knesset, it was agreed that the lockdown could be extended to yesterday. This is despite the fact that there's still a lot of debate to happen and discussions over whether or not to open schools. So we are emerging slowly. We are allowed out of our houses a little more than 1,000 meters. We're allowed to get takeaways. Businesses that do one-on-one kind of trading or business are allowed to open. Some mall owners have opened their malls, even though they haven't received any formal permission. But last night, the ire of the country again, as another mass funeral was held in the Bnei Brak area of Tel Aviv. A well-known rabbi has passed away of COVID-19, and his funeral attracted tens of thousands of mourners. And It also must be noted that Ben Gurion Airport remains closed at least for the next 2 weeks. This is in an attempt to stop any kind of incoming variants of the COVID-19 virus that may be highly contagious. And our last story I find fascinating. Yesterday, Israel's President Reuven Rivlin inaugurated the Israel Press Institute. Now, this new institute looks to safeguard the freedom of the press and the freedom of expression, which is a hallmark of a great democracy. The President went on to say that the right to criticize and the right to investigate is sacred in a democracy. And what this institute will do is not only protect the integrity of the press and to also try and grow confidence between the public and the press, but also aims to educate young people, especially children, on safe and smart media consumption. And this comes at a time where, as I mentioned earlier, on social media there is increased censorship, which is hurting not only the ability of various fundraising organizations, NGOs, to raise money, but it is also hurting the exposure of many of us, including this very page that works to educate people about this situation in the Middle East, the situation in Israel, and about Zionism as well. We have been severely restricted and are feeling the impact, and we're hoping that social media and other media will learn from this kind of example and make the difference between legitimate criticism and what becomes hate speech. Some of the suggestions that people have made is that when people go online and sign up to social media platforms, that they will be bound by law to put their full name and details in so that we don't have a troll situation. So it's going to be interesting to see how we progress with the Israeli Press Institute. One of the tenets we hold dear here in Israel is the ability to have robust discourse and debate. And even though sometimes we complain that maybe our press is too liberal or not liberal enough, it certainly does give us hope that we have an institution like this in place that makes sure that the freedom of expression and the freedom of the press remains sacrosanct. So those are the top stories making headlines in Israel. Don't forget that you can check out our original content online at our website at www.layoftheland.online. We have the first in a two-part series written by Shelley Berman. It's the story of her aliyah, her immigration to Israel. And if any of you out there watching this would like to share your story, doesn't matter if you made aliyah last year, 10 years ago, 30 years ago, we would love to hear from you. So be in contact with us. It will be up on our Facebook page tomorrow. And while you're on Facebook, please share this content and give us a like or a follow if you haven't already done that. We are on Twitter at Lay of the Land 5, at Lay of the Land with the digit 5. You're welcome to interact with us there. So I'm Rolene Marks. This is the Monday edition of the Israel Brief. It looks like we're going to have quite a newsy week coming in. And I wish you a safe and a healthy rest of your day. And we'll chat again tomorrow.